This is a test. Ian, can you hear me?
Okay.
Vamos ver se não vai dar antes. Alto, ¿verdad? ¿Cambio?
No.
Hello and welcome. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to the Light 'em Up Lounge. Welcome back here for another special edition, a special show, and very special set of guests, a pair of guests actually, that we have with us today. I'm delighted and I'm honored and privileged to welcome the rather new, and we'll learn about all that, rather new Mexican cigar brand, Casa 1910, and to talk about all that, the journey to this new and exciting endeavor, the essence of Mexican tobacco and cigars and Mexican lifestyle in general. I'm delighted to welcome Serge Wallach and our dear friends and the master blender for the project, Manolo Santiago. It's wonderful to have you, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us today. To all our guests watching us, if you have questions, as always, please make yourselves heard here at the lounge. Put your questions into the chat box, raise your hand, chime in. And for everybody watching us live on Facebook today, please put your questions underneath the live stream into the comments so I can check and forward your questions to Serge and Manolo. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Casa 1910, a brand that captures the spirit of the Mexican Revolution, a brand that is full of historical references, yet as a cigar startup, you have to build a reputation from scratch. And I'm very curious, Serge and Manolo, what are the main challenges when building a new brand in such a traditional, in the best way of the world, old-fashioned industry?
Well, I must say it's very tough. You're completely right. Especially consumers in Europe and maybe in Asia care a lot more about the history and heritage of a brand and multi-generational, let's say, story of blenders and farmers in the tobacco space. In America, I would say it's a little bit different. The consumer, it's a bit younger. And they're looking for, something different. Every year, every new trade show, they're looking for new products, new packaging, new flavor profiles. And there's a lot of things happening in the cigar industry right now that are, let's say, benefiting us or hindering us in different markets where we operated.
Let's maybe start from scratch. For all the people that are not familiar with Casa 1910, Serge, you just mentioned in the brief conversation that we had before the show that you actually grew up in Switzerland, and Manolo had a very important role with the Mexican importer of Cuban cigars, if I'm not mistaken. So tell us a little bit about how you guys actually met and how the idea of Casa 1910 came to life.
Yeah, so this is quite interesting, but a few years ago, before we started the project of Casa 1910, our other co-founder, Jamie, which is also Swiss, he founded the Swiss Community Mexico, which is a non-profit organization for the over 6,000 Swiss expats that we have in Mexico. And they organized monthly networking events, but wanted to make them a bit different from your boring traditional after-work cocktail. And so for every monthly event, they invited somebody different. One month there was a startup pitch. Another month you had an ambassador from Mexico to many countries in Asia speaking about the diplomatic relationship. And for one of these events, they had invited Manolo Santiago here, which at the time was brand ambassador for Habanos in Mexico, to give a tasting and a speech about Cuban cigars. And that's where we first met. We befriended each other, started smoking a lot together, and came up with the idea for this business to explore the Mexican tobacco further. We think it's a huge opportunity, given that the San Andres tobacco is highly sought after and used in many blends from Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, and really a household name across the world. But at the same time, you don't have many brands in the premium space from Mexico. And so that's what we set out to do.
What was it that got you to Mexico in the first place? I mean, what did two Swiss gentlemen ultimately do in Mexico, besides probably having a good time, a couple tequilas, and maybe a nice Mexican cigar?
If I may speak just for myself, and then on another occasion, maybe Jamie can speak how he got to Mexico. But I actually used to work in London for a company that invested in Latin American farmland, and then enrolled in a master's in agricultural economics in London. And for the second year of the master's, had the opportunity to move to Mexico and work in the Ministry of Agriculture here. So that's how I got here. This is around 6.5 years ago. Then fell in love with the country, the culture, its people, and really everything about Mexico, and never came back to Europe.
And never looked back. I hear you. So how did you approach this whole new journey? Was it a business case first? Was it more of a conceptual approach, or simply the wish to create something that would capture this Mexican spirit, somehow intermingled with your European perspective, heritage, and just these different worlds of coming together?
I mean, there's two aspects of the whole brand, what we're doing. And on one hand, it's purely the blend and the tobacco aspect, where Manolo is the expert, and he's been blended every single cigar, where we really saw an opportunity for Mexican tobacco to grow internationally. I mean, you all know the problems that Cuban cigars are facing. The supply is way lower than the current demand, and sometimes in Europe or even in Mexico, certain brands are hard to find. And that gave opportunity of big growth to producers like Dominican Republic and Nicaragua. And looking at the market, we saw how many brands were using Mexican tobacco in their blend, and especially certain brands were even advertising it a lot, you know, using aspects of Mexican history or culture, the Mexican flag, or tacos, mariachi, you name it, to advertise tequila to advertise that they're using Mexican tobacco. But all of these cigars were rolled outside of Mexico, and really there was no Mexican involved in this, and they didn't really have a strong foothold in Mexico at all, right? So they're selling this Mexican culture to the American consumer with a component of Mexican tobacco, but that's it. And we really wanted to change this and create a brand that is deeply rooted here in Mexico, with our brand ambassadors and friends from the culinary mixology scene, charros, which is the national sport of Mexico, etc. And also at the same time, from, let's say, more of a luxury consumer brand perspective, we noticed that even though Mexico is a global household as a country, so you can ask anyone from around the world about Mexico and they can name you 5 things of the country, some of that I mentioned before, in comparison to Honduras, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, that are maybe not as sexy countries. There's not many luxury consumer brands that operate here in Mexico and that are internationally recognized. So not only for the cigar aspect, but for the entire rest of the business, the accessories and other things that we might want to venture out in the future, we saw a huge opportunity for.
Did you have that sort of typical Mexican consumer particularly in mind as well when you planned that whole endeavor, or did you always conceptualize Casa 1910 as an international lifestyle brand?
No, we always definitely from the get-go wanted to be international, but it was very important for us to be respected and consumed and very present domestically. That's why we opened our cigar lounge here in the hottest district of Mexico City, to be present with the Mexicans rather than opening it, the first one, for example, in Los Cabos, where a lot of brands were created, like Plaza Azul or Casamigos, and you have all the rich American tourists. So it's very important for us to have that tie to Mexico, the tie to Mexican chefs, to Mexican artisans, craftsmen, and all sorts of brand ambassadors,
actors, singers
that we're working with.
Manolo, how was it for you when you first heard about that idea, about the concept, when you first met Serge? How did this whole picture sort of come together? And maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on your background. You have a rich and illustrious history with Habanos. You worked for the importer of Habanos into Mexico, besides being officially recognized by Habanos as one of the leading experts. So tell us a little bit of how you ultimately ended up in this founding team of Casa 1910.
Sure. Well, it's very interesting about the beginning of the Casa 1910 project, because in the 2.5 years ago, yeah, Jamie, Serge, and I make some dinners and smoke and talk about the Mexican tobacco and the factories in San Andres Valley from Veracruz, and I talk with Serge and Jamie. I have a lot of dreams about the Mexican tobacco. Mexico, actually, the San Andres Valley of Veracruz, it's not just a binder and wrapper producer. It's an amazing filler producer. Okay, the Negro San Andres, but not stop here. In the San Andres Valley, Veracruz, we produce the Sumatra, Mexican Sumatra wrapper, the amazing Habano seed or Piloto Habano in San Andres Valley, Veracruz, and other stuff. The process are amazing because the process of curing, of fermentation, of aging are amazing in Mexico, of the San Andres Valley of Veracruz. And I talked with these guys. We can make amazing cigars with 100% tobacco from Mexico. Not just the binder, not just the wrapper, the filler, binder, and wrapper. It's an amazing, and it's an amazing opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity for me for make own cigars, for make and share Mexico for all world, for all cigar aficionados. I take the risk. I take the opportunity. I take my entire life in this project, because I need to exposure San Andres Valley. I need to exposure the artisans from San Andres, from Veracruz, with entire cigar aficionados of the world. I need to expose the tequila makers. I need to expose the mezcal makers, the rum makers in Mexico, the whiskey makers in Mexico, and the way I can make this project is with Casa 1910, and with the vision for Serge and Jamie are amazing, about the financial, about the marketing, and I'm just smoke a lot. I just know the tobacco leaves from Mexico. I love the tobacco leaves from all countries, from Dominican Republic, from Honduras, from Ecuador, from Nicaragua, from Cameroon, but Mexico, it's my country. Okay, and I need to exposure to Mexico with the entire world. This is the way.
What's fascinating to me is I sometimes feel like Mexico and Mexican lifestyle, food and drink, is so overly stereotyped and so closely linked to certain, you know, preconceptions and images that you have in mind, especially internationally and particularly in the US, I believe. But what you managed to put into your brand, I studied the brand, the designs, and I tried to decipher the meanings and understand like every element. The icon, for example, inspired by the flag of Mexico, where the most important elements are the eagle and the snake and the claw that sort of grasps the serpent, similar to how a hand would grasp a cigar. Then
100%.
there, beautiful. I hope that people can see it on the screen. Yeah. So you managed to put so much into this brand, so much meaning. How challenging is it for you to sometimes fight against those stereotypes? And also purely thinking about cigars, I mean, there was a time when a Mexican cigar was considered the cheap smoke for New York City cab drivers. How difficult is it to change those preconceptions and start to mess around with the image and the picture that people have in mind when they hear Mexico and Mexican cigars?
So, I mean, that question is twofold. On one hand, yes, we're trying to really change the perception of Mexico on an international level. Not that it's just mariachi, tequila, Cinco de Mayo, and you know what a donkey, but that you actually have a variety of cultures across different states in Mexico, a variety of foods, a variety of drinks, and great craftsmanship from different parts of Mexico, whether it be like silver makers, ceramics, etc. And that's really what Talavera, like the ashtrays produce, what we're really trying to bring into the brand. And we really try to be attention to detail in every aspect, in design aspect and also historical aspects. Like you mentioned, our logo, which is inspired by the Mexican flag's coat of arms of the eagle, basically devouring the rattlesnake, which has pre-Hispanic meaning, but also has meanings with the Spanish colonizers, which put a more, let's say, maybe a religious angle to it, which then turned to be the defeat of good over evil. And in terms of the tobacco, the reason why I think Mexico has not excelled like Dominican Republic and Nicaragua is really due to an import regulation that was in place in Mexico up to 6 years ago. And very few people know this. So up to 6 years ago in Mexico, it was prohibited to import tobacco from other regions of the world into the country to create blends. So what did the largest producers of leaves do? Well, I'm only able to blend with different type of seeds from the same terroir, or from very similar terroir. I'm not going to excel in terms of blending in the super premium space against the top brands. Let me sell my best quality tobacco and the most aged tobacco to other producers around the world. And some of the most famous ones like Davidoff have been using Mexican tobacco for a long time now. And then let's use the second tier tobacco in order to create millions of blue collar cigars for a cheaper market in the United States that you mentioned, like taxi drivers in New York, etc. And I mean, over time, that has really created a distorted perception of Mexican tobacco, that the quality of a Mexican puro, 100% Mexican cigar cannot be as good as a Nicaraguan puro or Dominican puro, etc. And now that this import regulation has been lifted, nothing is stopping us from blending all different sorts of tobacco and showcasing to the world how good Mexican tobacco really is. But it was really important for us that our first release was a Mexican puro, because we didn't want to come out with a new Mexican brand using tobacco from another country as well. But look, this is a Mexican cigar. It's 5 years aged Mexican tobacco. It's 100% Mexican, and it's competing in the big leagues. I think we've gotten a relatively good amount of success in the trade shows we've been so far in the United States, as well as with the consumer in Mexico.
Speaking about actually the tobacco that you used with the first vitola, a robusto named Cuchillo Parado, I hope I pronounce it correctly. That actually that the name of the cigar pays tribute to a small town in Chihuahua where the Mexican Revolution started in 1910. First of all, why the strong focus on the revolution? What is the story behind that focus on that particular side of Mexican history?
I mean, the revolution is quite obvious. When you think of Mexico and cigars, you always think of the Mexican revolutionaries that were always pictured smoking cigars, and are some of the main father figures of the country. And Casa 1910 is exactly that. I mean, 1910 marks the beginning of the Mexican Revolution. And Casa, there's two reasons for this. One is that many companies in Mexico are named, I don't know, Casa Dragones, Casa this, Casa that, because they were the houses in the back in the days where they actually had the business that produced different things. And also Casa because Mexico is the most welcoming country in the world, maybe, you know, and we want to be like the house that welcomes everybody into Mexico to explore all the great things that Mexico has to offer. And now I forgot the second part of your question. What was it again?
I didn't post the second part of the question yet, but I wanted to go there.
Okay.
Actually, regarding the tobaccos that you use specifically.
Okay, but about the tobacco.
No, this is down your wheel park. I knew that.
Yeah. About the cuchillo parado for the mix for the tobacco leaves. For the wrapper, we use a Mexican Sumatra wrapper growing in San Andres Valley from Veracruz with 3 years of age. Okay. For the filler and binder, we use all Negro San Andres for different tobacco floor plan with 5 years aged for minimum. When I make this cigar, after we roll it, we rest the cigar for 6 to 8 months for the perfect smoke. Okay, in the cedar wood and other stuff in the warehouse on the San Andres Valley. It's a medium strength cigar with a very different organoleptic profile. It's not like a animal way. It's a regular way for the Mexican tobacco, but in this cigar, I looking for the herbs. I'm looking for the how do you say eno? I forgot the name of the eno, the woods and the spices, and very creamy smoke, and the medium strength cigar, very soft, very kind for the rookies, smokers, and for the more professional smokers. This is the perfect cigar for the first cigar in the day. With your black coffee, with your tequila, of course. Actually, the best pairing with this cigar, it's a reposado and an extra añejo tequila. It's very sweet. It's very creamy. Perfect with tequila.
Manolo, how did you approach that responsibility and the challenge of actually coming up with the blends for the project? In your previous role and with your previous experience in cigars and tobacco, you had like all the building blocks there, and you had such a strong experience and foundation for your further responsibilities now with Casa 1910, but ultimately, like being in charge of the blending, sourcing the raw materials, that's like a next step, and that's a different challenge altogether.
Yeah, well, I'm working in very different platforms about the flavors, about the drinks, about the cigars. About the drinks, I'm working with Cuban rum makers. I'm working with tequila makers. I'm studying a lot red wine, Scotch whiskey, the organoleptic profile, sommelier, and other stuff. But for me, it's not just to take the diploma, to take the certificate. I need to searching more. I need to read, to investigate very more. I need to find the info when I need, okay? About the cigars, about the tobacco. I work a lot with Habanos, about the new cigars, about the new vitolas, the regional editions for Mexico, the new brands. I working a lot from that, and I'm studying in Habanos Academy for junior, senior, and master Habanos sommelier. And I go to the fields, and I go to the factories. I take some course to the hand rolled in Cuba, in the some factories in Cuba, and I have I make a lot of questions for the master blenders in Habanos. I make a lot of questions for the growners, for the vegueros in the Cuba. I go to the San Andres Valley from Veracruz. I go to Nicaragua. I go to Dominican Republic, to Honduras, for making an investigation for the tobacco. I take a lot of courses, a lot of school about the organoleptic profiles, aromas, flavors, sensations. It's very important to me make a cigars, make a tequilas for the perfect sensations for every client, for every people, for every person. I need to make good sensation. I need to make good good memories with aroma, with the sensation, with the flavor, and I put a lot of love in these blends, a lot of my feelings, a lot of my my wishes in these cigars, and the talks and the pairings and the suggested pairings. Well, it's my way.
I think the suggested pairing is quite interesting, and you will see that at the PCA next week when we release our little bit adjusted packaging in our new line of cigars. We included inside also like a more descriptive paper in the box where there's always a suggested pairing. And what surprises me personally about Manolo, when I have had the chance and the pleasure to be down there during the blending process, is that his background in spirits, you can really see it. Like before he got into cigars and with Habanos, he spent quite a few years in the spirits industry. And while he's blending the cigar, right, and he tells me, Serge, try this. And I'm like, I'm not so sure about this. He's like, no, but in 3 months after it's rolled, you will see, you know, it will be a perfect pairing with, I don't know, whiskey or something. I'm like, okay. And then we rolled it and we wait and we see, and most of the times he's right.
Serge, my background is in wines and spirits and the hospitality industry as well. And in general, what I find interesting is when people come into an industry with a completely different perspective, different experiences, different business backgrounds, it's on the one hand can be a challenge because you're probably new to the industry and you're lacking some of the contacts or the network that other people who have spent their whole life in tobacco and cigars have already established. But at the same time, it offers you a fresh pair of eyes, and it gives you the opportunity to look at things differently and challenge a status quo. Where do you find the balance for yourself and Casa 1910 there?
I mean, I must say that between Manolo's experience in the cigar industry and some of our advisors in the company, which have held like senior positions at cigar companies, we have a good team to advise us on the industry insights. But you're right, sometimes it is good to be an outsider and view things with a fresh eye and do things differently. I mean, many people told us launching a cigar with only one SKU was like shooting ourselves in the foot. It was a big challenge, I tell you that, to open for the first year accounts, because even our beautiful orange box that really pops might get lost in a large humidor, especially in the United States where humidors are way bigger than in Europe. But at the same time, it was like a talking point, and we wanted to create something that could be attractive to every sort of smoker, right? We didn't want to launch the Toro, which is the most commonly smoked cigar in America. We wanted to launch the Robusto, which is the most commonly smoked cigar in Mexico and mostly around the world, right? We wanted to create something that is very creamy, medium body, more sophisticated, maybe than not too much spice, in order to be really like a foot in the door for a younger smoker, for a new demographic of of smoker, or for an occasional smoker that in Mexico maybe smokes only at weddings, baptisms, to celebrate a business deal, etc. But at the same time, be something that an aficionado that smokes multiple cigars a day can appreciate in the morning or early afternoon. As well as for the box, right? Traditionally, you would go with a wooden box, which, I mean, there is advantages, a lot of them, having wooden boxes versus like our beautiful cardboard box, especially in long-term aging. But given that we expect this cigar to rotate and actually be smoked, a lot of the effects of the wood don't really come into the cigar, especially thinking that we're already giving it a minimum of 6 to 8 months of aging and see their boxes at factory before we even ship them out. And the advantage of the box being cardboard, for example, is it's much lighter for shipping, and I mean it lowers costs there. So it is good sometimes to have an outsider view in the industry.
Also, in general, it just feels like you put a lot of emphasis on the marketing side and creating the framework around the cigar. So it's not just about the actual cigar, it's about the entire experience around it and the way you communicate. Is it sometimes challenging to sort of prove your point as a new brand, where a lot of people, you know, might start argue, yeah, there's a lot of marketing shenanigans and storytelling going around, but where's the meat on the bone? Where's the substance? Like,
I mean, yes, and a lot of people may argue that, but I think that the marketing angle and the storytelling is very important, especially if we want this industry to stay alive, if we want new people to enter this industry, and we want this industry to be younger and more dynamic. I think that a lot of brands have their core consumers, which are very brand loyal, but that's an aging demographic. And there's headwinds from regulators and many other aspects. And what you have to do is keep the brand sexy and interesting for a younger audience. I mean, that's really, I think, a core role of what we're doing. And on the other hand, also not disappoint with the keeping constant quality in the blends, in the construction, and new interesting flavor profiles that will be attractive to smokers.
Yeah, it's like very balanced, with a beautiful history, amazing marketing materials with packaging and other stuff, and a good cigar. It's a balance for us.
Alistair, our dear friend who is watching us from South Africa, had a question for you gents over on Facebook. And he was curious, speaking about experience and all the surrounding elements, he was curious about your jackets, and in particular, those little cigar tube-like pockets that you have on your right chest. Is that a custom design? Was that specifically designed for Casa 1910 and your cigars there?
It was designed specifically for our brand, but we must say it was inspired by Mr. Portanova, I believe he's called, that was American/Italian oil person that was quite famous during the 70s. And he built one of the most largest and luxurious houses in Acapulco, in Mexico, when Acapulco was at its glory days, and was pictured by famous photographers wearing this jacket. So we thought to bring it out again, right, given that we are a Mexican brand. And I think what makes it cool is that it has this cigar pocket, and rather than having it on both sides, we decided to do it only on one side. And it's the second accessory from our accessory line that we came out. It's made out of 100% Italian linen and deer horn buttons. And prior to that, we have released a few Talavera ashtrays that we have here. And Talavera is this Mexican ceramic. And we're partnered there with the oldest Talavera manufacturer in Mexico, called Uriarte Talavera. And it's actually the 6th oldest company that's still active in Mexico. And we're thinking to launch over time more and more accessories to really build out the lifestyle brand as well, and the lifestyle part of the brand, because we want it to be a brand that is synonymous with cigar, the cigar lifestyle, but also in general, the whole Mexican lifestyle and culture, and offer something also to non-smokers, right? I mean, this jacket or the ashtrays, or maybe in the future cufflinks or whatever it may be, might be.
There has to be some tequila further down the road, I assume, huh?
Baby steps.
Yeah, step by step. Like we're barely launching our new SKUs now at the PCA, and yeah, step by step we'll see where it takes us.
Perfect. Before we dive further into the cigars and maybe also the distribution part a little bit, let's bring in Macy, who I'm sure is completely fired up, with his dream being a Colombian puro further down the road, and establishing tobacco growing and cigar manufacturing in the country that is so close to his heart. He'll be super excited to see you on the show and hear a little bit about a Mexican cigar journey.
Oh,
amazing.
Cigar socialites. ¿Cómo están, caballeros, damas? ¿Están en DF? ¿Dónde están?
Sí, aquí estamos en el DF.
You lucky sons of bitches. That city is so nice. Let's talk about pre-married Macy for a second, who, I don't know if you can see my dream wall. I'm a big Club America fan. I'm a big Condesa fan. I'm a big Polanco After Midnight fan. I'm not a fan of the following mornings. They are just brutal, los crudo, guayabos crudo. But where is your lounge, by the way?
It's in Roma Norte.
Oh, of course it is. What's the big street there? Is it Alvaro Obregon? What's the big street in Roma Norte?
We are actually on Calle Chihuahua because
okay, that's famous one. Yes.
The Mexican Revolution started in Chihuahua, but it's right next to Alvaro Obregon. It's like 2 streets away.
Yeah, I once had a couple nights partying with a European guy. His family's in the textile business. I don't know if you know a Scottish guy, Max Stewart, but anyway, a similar guy. Anyway, he took me to Roma Norte, to where your lounge is, and I'm still feeling that. It was a great night, but so if my wife ever lets me get back to Mexico City today, I will be in that lounge, and it's gonna get crazy. I bet it's amazing.
So this year in November, we're actually hosting our 2nd annual event. And this is something we want to do every year to really build a community with all our family of followers and friends and aficionados, as well as with all our most loyal retailers in America and distributors around the world. Somebody who's on the call, I see that's on the call here, Jacob was actually there. Amazing. At last.
This was me back in the day, pre-married. Such a gringo. Look, I even have the white socks, so you can tell I'm American. How bad is that? My wife changed that, but you know where this is, the famous Chapultepec, the tour. But what a city! I just say to people, I mean, really, I married a Colombian, but it's just, I'm telling you, Mexico City is a different level of everything, in the food, the traffic. You just anyway, I'm gonna bite my tongue beyond that, but sorry. So, and let me say also, those accessories blow my mind. The shirts are beautiful. I have an ashtray collection. It's killing me. I'm getting, and yours might be the nicest Sinicera I've ever seen in my life. That is stunning. The ceramic, I mean, my God. I'm trying to think that you shouldn't have shown me the ashtray before I got called up here to bat. Okay, and I'm glad to hear your lounge wasn't in Tepito. I've spent some time there, and it's probably good. Anyway,
magical place.
It's funny. Reinhard just always knows where I'm going. He just one step ahead of me at least. I have a white whale, this obsession. My wife is from Colombia. Like, talking to you, one of you actually on my left, you're like a better looking version of me. It is almost like talking to but everything you're doing in Mexico is my dream. I just want to do it in Colombia. So I've got a few questions. Can you talk about your experience and tips from your experiences for kind of doing something innovative like that of going beyond? I mean, some companies CAO have used some Colombian leaf, but I mean, really, your dream is so. I mean, I'm inspired, and so can you talk about tips you've learned? And feel free to go deep into the game about working with factories, about what it's like taking genetics not typically grown in an area, growing Sumatra seed in San Andres, and whether that can be done with others, and and also I'm really interested in. I'm a lawyer by trade, desafortunadamente. For now, until I get in the cigar business and recover. That's the problem. You're too cool to do the born. I wish I were cool enough to not be in this business. But anyway, can you talk about business? Like, I mean, really nerdy stuff. Like, I'm interested, like, is your company like a Mexican corporation? How do you enforce contracts? Do you have like choice of forum clauses in your agreements, and like, we'll sue you in American court? So can you talk about anything you want about your business? I mean, just, I open it up. Those things all intrigue me. And
sure. So we basically started out funding the business out of pocket and wanted to make great Mexican cigars, literally for ourselves and friends and family at the beginning. And soon realized that if we want to invest a little bit more in marketing, branding, saw how much like the boxes cost, the rings, this and that, we needed more money, right? So a year into the business, we did a small family and friends external funding round. And at that point, we realized that Mexico, even though we love the country, there's also many problems, right? And the perception internationally, especially from a business standpoint, is not as attractive as having a holding somewhere outside of Mexico. And given that we're Swiss and we have great relationships in Switzerland, 2 of the 3 founders, also big cigar companies are based in Switzerland, and it's a very big cigar market. Rather than making a US, I don't know, Delaware holding, or I don't know, somewhere else where it's, I don't know, a little bit more gray in the Caribbean, maybe, islands, we chose to have a Swiss holding which owns the Mexican subsidiary outright. There's a few advantages to this, right? There's one of the best tax treaties in place between Switzerland and Mexico, and all of the Swiss large multinationals that operate here actually fall under this tax treaty. So we can basically like raise money at holding level and operate in various aspects at holding level while having a subsidiary in Mexico to employ people here domestically, right? So all our trademarks, for example, are owned at holding level, and let's say the marketing, a lot is done from holding level. But of course, we need to have a domestic presence here. And I mean, there's been a lot of problems in operating a business in Mexico. It's really not the easiest thing to operate a business in Mexico, but you learn by doing. And we've done a lot of mistakes that were expensive at the time, but it's better to do them early on and learn from them than doing them when you grow too quickly and then they become more expensive. Yeah, I mean, this is how we have set up our structure. And for example, with the factories, because you got into that, if you export product, right, that's just because of like you wanted me to get into the nerdy stuff, but you don't pay VAT on the product in Mexico, which is the VAT here is quite high, it's 16%. So we have to think ahead from the beginning of a line of production. When Manolo finalizes the plans, that we say, okay, we're going to release these 4 cigars. How many of these cigars are going to stay within Mexico? How many are going to go outside of Mexico? How many are going to go to our distributor and warehouse in the United States, where we're working with Ilusion Cigars based out of Reno, that from there ships to every retailer in America? How many cigars go to our partners in Switzerland, which is EGM Cigars, that you might be familiar with? They're like an online platform that trades Cuban cigars mostly, and they're based close to where I grew up in the southern part of Switzerland. Because you have to already define which markets they go for because of tax reasons, right? So we purchase exactly the amount of boxes with VAT that stay in Mexico, while the other ones from the Mexican subsidiary, while the other ones we purchase from the Swiss holding directly because they get assembled and get
For export.
For export. And the same goes for the cigars with our factory. Like we have to know how many cigars we pay from the Mexican subsidiary in pesos, with the VAT and another tax called IEPS, which is very high tax here in Mexico for tobacco and spirits. Whilst the other ones, if they go for the export markets, we pay directly from the Swiss holding in dollars without paying VAT or this tobacco tax. That's, I mean, the closest, I don't know, thing to answer your question. But any question you have, I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, let me ask bluntly, confían en las cortes in Mexico? Do you trust the Mexican courts if you have, I mean,
let's say you have to be very well connected, and like some of our bankers are quite influential people in Mexico. So, but at the same time, you have, it's not here, it's anywhere in the world really, like whether it be with a broker that you have for a state in Texas that you give exclusivity to in your contract or whatever you may do. Yes, the courts like are enforced and are more, let's say, proper in Europe, Switzerland, or the United States. But still, you can spend a lot of money fighting stupid things, and it might cost you more money actually fighting than what you're getting out of it, and it takes you years of time, right? So I think what we learn the most is having trusted partners and really people that you know you can do business with for a long time. And saying that, like it was from the beginning, like one of the things we set out of to do everything in Mexico, from the cellophane to the rings, to the boxes, etc. But of course, growing the company, sooner or later you have to make like a business judgment whether the economies of scales in the production outside of Mexico make sense financially versus will it harm the brand, the image of being truly authentic Mexican, right?
Yeah, if you need a good cigar, you need to take the risk. You need a perfect plan with suppliers, with an export and import, and the taxes, and you need to spend a lot of money if you like a good cigar.
can I ask how much? What do you think the minimum someone, just with what you know, if you say, look, if you want to get in this game, I don't know, if you don't have $500,000, just don't even, I mean, is there a number you like, just don't even sweat it? Sorry, I'll be done,
but I think more than the amount. I mean, you can probably start with less than that, right? I mean, in my opinion, but you just start with a very small production. We launched with having produced basically over 100,000 of the Cuchillo Parado from the get-go. So it was a more expensive venture, but at the same time, everything you do, there's economies of scale, right? The first time around, we did like that's another mistake, right? That we did, for example, that you can call it a mistake or a change in business decision. We thought that because we have only one SKU, and yes, some of like our boxes were going to be purchased for Father's Day or for a gift for Christmas or gift giving between politicians or businessmen in Mexico or even in the United States, but that wouldn't make the bulk of our production. We split the Cuchillo Parado boxes, having 1/3 in 10er boxes and 2/3 in 20er boxes, right? Why did we take that decision? Well, because most retail locations, cigar lounges or retailers sell individual sticks, and the unit economics per cigar is much better when you do a 20er box, right? The cost of the box per cigar is much lower. Then we noticed actually like that if we would have ordered 3 times as many 10er boxes, the price of the box would have been lower to nearly be as much as the unit economics of the 20er box. And also the 10er boxes just move way quicker. Like when you sell 4 or 5 cigars, they repurchase, right? Especially smaller stores that maybe only purchase 1 or 2 boxes to have from us to have presence. That's also something we learned, but we did all of these mistakes relatively early on in the company. So I'm happy that we didn't do that at a larger scale.
Many
No,
thanks
thank you.
for your questions. Greatly appreciated. Serge, speaking of the packaging in the boxes, over the last couple of weeks and during some of the most recent shows, we actually discussed this quite a few times. We all know that supply chains are under a lot of stress and duress at the moment. It's becoming more and more challenging to source glass bottles for liquors and wines. Wooden boxes have been a bottleneck for quite many cigar producers, actually. Have you ever thought, or do you think it could be a part of the future of the industry where the traditional wooden box is probably being replaced by alternative ways of packaging? And I fully understand that as a new brand, you need to put your feet on the ground. You want to make a clear statement, and you want to convey your message through beautiful packaging and great design. But where do you see potential for new ways of thinking, yet again,
So,
in the cigar world with alternative packaging?
so let me tell you how it came across for us, right? I mean, it's not that we from the get-go wanted to do the box how it is now. In the beginning, actually, our idea was to have a wooden box because that's what we were recommended from Manolo, but with a lacquered top similar to a Behique box, right? Like, and have the orange color, but on a wooden piano kind of finished lacquered box. But also at the same time, we set out to produce everything in Mexico, from the rings to the cellophane to the box. Everything had to be made 100% in Mexico, except for the Boveda pouch. And we looked at the box manufacturers in Veracruz and domestically, and they were not able to reach that quality that we wanted.
That's quality, yeah.
And so we looked for alternatives. And while looking for alternatives, we came across basically doing it hard cardboard, and then found out that we can actually get a much higher quality printing out of this than the lacquered box. And also what I mentioned before, that it's much lighter for shipment, which actually lowers our logistics costs quite a lot. And
without all interference with the aromas, with the cigar and other stuff, it's a good packaging.
Yeah, something really important is you have to, in the packaging, make sure that they don't use certain types of glues that actually impregnate the cigar with the smell. And also we set out to make the packaging as airtight as possible. So it's really hermetic, so that no
with magnets.
Exactly.
Very interesting. We had a couple of questions from Adrian, who is here with us at the lounge. Adrian, my dear friend, chime in and please raise your questions for our two gentlemen.
So it's especially for you, Manolo. So my first question is, why, when you roll a cigar, you let it rest for 6 to 8 months in a cellar, and why not only 45 days? What is the influence on it?
Okay, we have several facts about it. The first fact is I need to give you the perfect cigar. Okay, when you take the cigar for the box, it's a perfect way to smoke. I need to taste with 45 days. I need to taste with 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. When we come to the 6 to 8 months, it's a perfect way to smoke this cigar, the Cuchillo Parado, the Robusto. Okay? About the perfect humidity inside, in this cigar, the no ammonia inside the cigar, perfect flavor, perfect aroma for the plant. And this is a reason. Perfect cigar in the 6 to 8 months. I don't like to give you one cigar and tell you need the rest for 4 months in your humidor, this cigar for a smoke. No, I need to give you one cigar in the perfect day to smoke right now.
And I think it might come from your Habanos experience, where they do a lot of releases and they tell you, store them for a few years and smoke them.
I don't like when I take new cigar and I smoke and I feel awful. I feel ammonia. I feel like some green tobaccos. It's not just about the fermentation. It's not about the aging for tobacco leaves. You need to give the tobacco leaves the freedom to express yourself, to blending the aromas, to blending the flavors,
The oils, no?
the oils. This is the way, okay? The perfect cigar in the perfect time is to 6 to 8 months.
But also something to mention that is specifically for the Cuchillo Parado, for 100% Mexican tobacco, for the fermentation and aging process that specific tobacco had. Because we tried it over time and we told them after 3 months.
Maybe
you know,
for
is it good
a
enough?
blend with Nicaragua, you need just 3 months, 90 days. Maybe for Dominican Republic, about the process in other factory, you need 40 days actually. But in this case, in this Cuchillo Parado, we need 6 to 8 months. It's very different about the factories, about the tobacco leaves, about the altitude, about the humidity in the warehouse, about the water in the warehouse. It's all natural. The tobacco leaves express very different in different countries. It's like a rum. It's very different. The aging the rum in the barrels in Spain. It's very different in Cuba. It's very different in Nicaragua, in Panama. It's very different way to aging the spirit. It's the same way in the tobacco industry.
Great, thank you very much. So you answered to my second question. Now for the third question, how do you reconditionate a cigar after it's traveled, from the country where it was born, up in there where it's very cold, poor oxygen, and coming back? So when it arrives in a new country, how do you reconditionate those cigars?
I mean, we work with every single, let's say, logistics center is fully temperature and humidity controlled, and Boveda from the beginning until the end. I mean, that's the only way we can be sure that the cigars maintain its condition.
So
And a few days before export the cigars, we need to freeze the old cigars for the export.
Yeah, so I mean, ideally you would freeze them like not right before you ship them. You do the freezing process, then like a day or two after the freezing process, you ship it out with the Boveda in to like the logistics center, and then they stay like a few weeks in the logistics center there before they go straight to the shop and then straight to the consumer. In an ideal world, sometimes it happens that it's just like straight to the consumer, and then I mean, what you have to do is probably take out the cigars of the box and put them into your wooden humidor for a few weeks to recalibrate them. Like if you really want to have the perfect smoke. We try to do whatever we can with our packaging and with our processes, and we were trying to improve them every day. But of course, if you put your cigars a few weeks or even more than that in a good humidor with a controlled climate, they will recalibrate.
Actually, I make a lot of experiments with our boxes, and the cigars are in the box outside the humidor for 2 months in a perfect humidity inside with the Boveda. With cellophane, with Boveda, 2 months here without humidor.
Yeah, we made the box so airtight that the Boveda actually functions well within our box with the magnet and how we have designed the box. And also what we did additionally for the end consumer is having created these pouches, right? Which are smaller ones for individual sticks, but also larger ones where you can actually fit the entire 10 or 20 year box, close the pouch with the boveda that you already received inside of the box. You can leave it there for a few months without even having to own a humidor, because we wanted to make it really simple for newcomers to the industry that may not be aficionados and might get scared away. I mean, I remember the first time in, let's say, my life that I walked into a cigar store in Switzerland, and it can be like a bit of a frightening experience, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you want to smoke.
I don't have a humidor.
You don't have a humidor, you know, and I mean, it's not really a cheap hobby. Like it can be scary or scare a lot of people away, and we want to make it as simple as possible for a new demographic of smokers to be able to enjoy our cigar. That people basically have no excuse to purchase them and try them, you know. I don't have a humidor, don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry, but we don't talk about it. You don't need the humidor. No. You need a humidor. But if you don't have one, if you just have the box for 2 months, it's okay.
Then it depends. I mean, it was two months in your house. If you're maybe in the mountains in Switzerland where it's very dry, it might be less.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Many thanks, Adrian, for the questions.
Thank you, Adrian.
Gentlemen, the Mexican cigar world is pretty much like almost exclusively linked with the Torrent family name, or at least that was the case previously. How's your relationship with the Torrent family? Where do you see sort of potentials to work together, to collaborate, to grow together? And on the other hand, where do you intend to position yourself in that hemisphere? And how do you think that Casa 1910 will offer a different take on Mexican tobaccos and cigars compared to what the industry is well aware of?
that's a great question. And I mean, of course, the Torrent family are the largest producers and the most prominent family of tobacco growers and cigar producers from Mexico. Over many years, they were quite famous with their more, let's say, mass market cigar called Te Amo, which was very popular in the United States during the cigar boom of the 90s. And to go back to what I mentioned before, as soon as the import regulations were lifted in Mexico, which they actually lobbied a lot for, and they've lobbied for many things for Mexican tobacco, Alejandro launched a more premium line, which is Casa Torrent, which has had a fair amount of success and won quite a few awards in different publications around the world. We personally have a good relationship with them. We know of each other and always try to keep a professional relationship with each other, but we do not produce with them. We wanted to produce with a smaller producer, which is the third largest one in Mexico after the Torrent and Santa Clara, in order to have more of a control of a smaller factory with our producer, and also control of the tobacco, because a lot of the tobacco that we use is actually grown by the same family that we work with. But anybody who basically wants to help promote Mexican tobacco or Mexican cigars around the world, that's what we're here for. We want to push Mexico in general, its culture, history, and heritage around the world, and especially in tobacco. We want more Mexican brands to be here. We want to go to a large store in America and not see 300 different brands from Dominican Republic and Nicaragua, and maybe not even one from Mexico, but try to get a bit of a market share together and push the Mexican
tobacco.
Yeah, the Mexican tobacco and cigar industry as much as we can. And I mean, they are by far the largest ones, and hats off to what they've done for the industry and for lobbying domestically here in Mexico against taxation, against regulation, and many things they've done.
At the end of the day, I love to make one collaboration with Torrent, maybe in the future. I don't know, but it's maybe.
I mean, our producer is a very close friend of Alejandro. San Andres is very small.
Yeah.
I I would imagine. And also when it comes to sourcing raw materials, I mean, that there has to be overlaps and collaborative efforts, right?
Yeah. The most important thing is to push Mexican tobacco and Mexican cigars around the world and have more people appreciate them. It's really like mind-boggling to me sometimes speaking to consumers in the United States that don't even know that San Andres is actually Mexican tobacco, you know.
Interesting. Okay.
A lot of people have told us, for example, in our logo, we say Origen Veracruz, Mexico, like origin Veracruz, Mexico, which Veracruz is the state where the San Andres Valley is in. Why we didn't put Origen San Andres, Mexico? Because San Andres is what the American consumer and the cigar consumer around the world knows. Many people don't know what Veracruz is, but I mean, we wanted to pay homage to the state, not only to the San Andres Valley. We stick to that decision from the beginning until now.
Excellent. I'm super glad and happy that Jacob is here with us at the lounge today. And I would love for Jacob to chime in for a moment. And I believe you had a question as well. Great to see you, buddy.
Hey, buddy. How are you? Guys, good to see you. Got a question for everyone that's been enjoying your cigars since, I guess, PCA last year and after the launch event at the end of the year. Can you talk to us about the new blends coming out, what we can be excited to look forward to?
Definitely. So we will now have 2 lines of cigars, which we're basically releasing at the PCA. One is the Revolutionary Edition, which is 100% Mexican tobacco and 100% made in Mexico, which our first release was the Cuchillo Parado, because it was the first battle of the revolution. And the second release that we will do at the PCA, it's called Tierra Blanca, which is another one of the first battles of the Mexican Revolution. And this will be a Toro format, which Manolo is showing right now in the camera. But rather than having a Sumatra wrapper, it will have a Maduro wrapper. And then we have another line called the Cavalry Edition. And we named it the Cavalry Edition after famous horses of the Mexican Revolution and its riders. And because the horses that were used in the Mexican Revolution were a mixture of breeds, we're here blending mostly Mexican and Nicaraguan tobacco. These will be 3 formats. So also Toro, Torpedo and Gordo. 2 of these also have one component of Ecuadorian leaf, and one of them is purely Mexican and Nicaraguan. And if you want to ask more about like the blending process of these,
well, for the Revolution Edition, it's very interesting because we use all Negro San Andres for the Tierra Blanca, the amazing Toro. The strength, it's a medium to full strength cigar. It's a Toro. The measures, it's a 6 to 54. But the Cavalry Edition, it's all blends with Nicaragua and Mexico. Actually, in the As de Oro, we use 7 types for tobacco leaves. Nicaragua, the Habano, the Piloto Habano for the wrapper, and the binder, it's Negro San Andres. It's a very, very complex cigar for the Toro. For the Torpedo, it's a very kindly cigar. It's a medium to full strength. It's 5 types of tobacco leaves. And for the Gordo, it's an Prieto cigar. It's very dark cigar with Negro San Andres for the wrapper. From the binder, we use the Esteli binder, and for the filler, 4 different types of tobacco leaves from Nicaragua. It's an very different cigars, very different blends for each, and we are very excited for the presentation of these cigars in the PCA in this year. It's five cigars in a catalog. It's very interesting for us.
And Manolo chose the different, let's say, vitolas in a collaborative effort. One part, I mean, it's we would love to have a Lancero, for example, for us, but it's really not a market-driven decision to have a Lancero. So it was a bit of a market-driven decision of what are the the different sizes that the consumers want the most in the United States. And on the other aspect, like finding the different blends that fit best for these sizes. And when we see which blends are most successful, we might release the different blends in different vitolas.
And different wrappers, I don't know.
And also something that Manolo has been working on that we will release next year. It's our third line, which will be a mix of Dominican and Mexican tobacco. And this we're finalizing now because we have to start going into production now in order to release it next year.
So exciting times ahead. A lot of project in the pipeline. In general, and before we wrap things up, gentlemen, please allow me to take a little sneak preview into the crystal ball together with you. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the world, plenty of challenges that we're facing as a global community. Even though the cigar industry has had strong and successful years in terms of export numbers, sales components, what is your outlook on the next couple of months, and where do you think that the cigar industry is headed towards, and where would you like to make your sort of fingerprint with Casa 1910 on that?
Oof, it's not an easy question to answer. I mean, I wish I had a magical ball that I could foresee the next 12 to 24 months of specifically the cigar industry, but even at large the economy with the interest rates and inflation and everything that's going on with the war in Ukraine and Russia. But I think a big let's say advantage and opportunity for us right now, I think, is everything that is happening with Habanos in Europe. I mean, we landed our first duty-free deal with a German group that is positioning our cigars in the airports of Hamburg, Frankfurt, Istanbul,
Montenegro.
And also a distribution deal in Montenegro that we've closed. And I think a lot of these opportunities are really arising because they cannot get their hands on Cuban cigars. There is a lack of supply in the market. And especially with this new decision to raise prices, a lot of consumers are going to shift to New World cigars. And that gives us an opportunity to come in, get some shelf space, and at the same time with the new demographic of smokers coming into the market, being what they know of since they start smoking, right? Mm-hmm.
But in general, are you bullish or bearish in particular in regards to the cigar?
I think the only thing that I'm bearish of, which I don't know how to predict, it's the regulatory aspect of things. So the FDA coming in harder in terms of labeling, in terms of taxation, with the grandfather process and many other things that are happening. And also in Europe, where by 2024, they're asking for many more requirements in terms of packaging, boxes, etc. That's, let's say, the thing that I'm most bearish about. But in general, I think cigars are a product that has been discovered since the discovery of the New World by the Spaniards and will not disappear. I mean, if you look at every number of the industry, year on year, the premium cigar industry is growing. And even the cigar and cigarillo industry at large is quite a high CAGR, while cigarette consumption is declining. And I think now people are realizing slowly also that vaping is really not a healthy alternative to cigarettes. And when a lot of consumers, let's say, graduate from their 20s into their 30s and 40s from a like fast-paced, maybe more party lifestyle into more sophisticated purchases. So similar to the growth of the craft beer industry, the premium spirits or the premium coffee industry, they will consume less frequently, but in higher product offerings. And I think the millennials are really a consumer that wants to buy into a lifestyle brand, buy into
gourmet and into experiences and into quality.
Consume less, but consume better. I think that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's
catch.
something, for example, that Zino Davidoff has always said, right? Like smoke less, but smoke better, eat less, eat better. And I think that's a trend that is happening around the world.
And you see sometimes it's those old tried and tested ideas and statements and theories and we will find them over and over again, and it's just as true today as it was when Sina Davidoff mentioned that as well.
Yeah, and to go a bit further into it, I think it's the best time in history ever to be a luxury consumer brand from Mexico. I mean, Mexico is really on the map right now with the whole tequila boom. With during the pandemic, it was one of the few countries that actually kept everything open, restaurants, etc., and tourist destinations open. So we have a lot of travelers from the United States and from Europe that have discovered Mexico for the first time. A lot of Americans actually who have relocated here and work remotely. Mexico is really becoming much more international, and it's a completely different city, Mexico City, than what it was 6.5 years ago when I moved here. And you see it with Mexican high-end concepts, right? The restaurants opening up in London, opening up in Soho House, Amsterdam, with more and more people discovering Mexico, discovering tequila and its culture. It's really, I think, I'm really bullish on Mexico.
I couldn't agree more with what you said, and I would like to add that, especially in these challenging days and in our challenging time, besides it being very windy here now, I think that cigars are the perfect product for our time. It sometimes feels like an old-fashioned product in an old-fashioned industry, like the handmade premium cigar is almost outdated, or it fell out of time. I think it's exactly the reason, and with everything that's happening now, why cigars are the perfect product for this day and age, for this time. Because it reminds us of what is important, and it reminds us of time, community, friendship, and camaraderie. And in that, we find that perfect balance between tradition, history, and innovation and new ideas. And I think that's what you have perfectly exemplified with Casa 1910, that this is a bridge, that an amalgamation that can be made so successfully, and that's where the magic lies for the modern consumer. So I want to applaud you for that and congratulate for that wonderful project that you're building, and I wish you nothing but the very best for it. Exciting things to come. I'm really, really grateful and glad that we got to share some of your story, some of the evolution of Casa 1910 with our global audience. And again, I can only say all the very best to you. Keep on manufacturing such incredible experiences and moments to be enjoyed, and onwards and upwards. Here's to a very interesting, hopefully successful and delightful future.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
those kind words, and thank you very much for inviting us on this platform. And we're looking forward to meeting you personally at the PCA and having a cigar and a good tequila añejo together at our booth.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, many thanks. All the very best. Thanks for being here with us at the Light 'em Up Lounge. And again, all very best. Next week, we're actually a day or 2 days before the PCA trade show. So we will do a little warm-up pre-game show together with Kevin from Cigar Prop. So I hope that you will all join us next Wednesday for another Light 'em Up Lounge. Serge, Manolo, it was wonderful to have you with us today. Thanks for everything. Continued success, all the very best, and our blessings from all of us here at Light 'em Up. Take care.
Thank you.
Many thanks. Light 'em up. Goodbye.
Light it up.